Batman #3, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. We last left off with Batman fighting the Talon seemingly to the death, but of course both of them survived. This issue picks up with a flashback to 1922 in Gotham. We have a man running down the streets screaming for help. Some cops find him, recognize him as Alan Wayne, guy who practically built the city of Gotham. He's yelling that someone's after him. Something about the 13th hour being upon them and how their nests are in his home. And as the cops are discussing what they're going to do with him, he runs into an open manhole cover and seemingly dies. And then we just leave that. So we cut back to Batman. He is quote-unquote interrogating some gang members of, they call themselves the Whisper Gang, which is some kind of a Ukrainian mob, I guess. Apparently, each of the 5 railroads in Gotham is controlled by one of the different mobs, and he's already interrogated the other ones, so now he's onto this one, and their whole shtick is that their new recruits have to, have this mask soldered onto them, and it's made of steel, and it's to signify how they'll never snitch or something. So Batman gets in a fight with a bunch of the members, and they're all very skilled with weapons or not, but Batman manages to magnetize one of the passing by subways, and that causes all of their steel masks to attach to it and be dragged down the subway with him, which I'm pretty sure these guys are dead. That's hard to come back from. But regardless, the guy he's interrogating claims how he doesn't know anything about how the Talon, because Batman thinks the Talon got in via the subway system. And he's like, I don't know nothing about no owls. And Batman uses some heart detection or something to realize he's telling the truth. So he goes back to the Batcave and tries to run some voice recognition on the Talon as he was saying how, Bruce Wayne, you've been sentenced to die, and how much he loves killing Waynes. Alfred comes in, and Batman just tries to probe his brain a little bit of, what does he know about owls? And specifically their relation to the Waynes. And Alfred's like, owls, the Court of Owls, obviously, is a thing that everybody knows about in Gotham. But obviously they're just a folk tale. And as it goes for the Waynes, no Waynes have died suspiciously in the past 50 years, but your great-great-grandfather Alan Wayne did have, he went senile in his later years, but he developed an obsession with owls. And you can see it throughout his architecture, because he was an architect who built buildings in Gotham, how along some of the moldings there will be an owl pattern. So Batman takes note of that, and he's like, all right, cool. I'm going to go talk to Lincoln March again. So he goes to Lincoln's hospital room, and he's like, Bruce, how are you even walking? You fell out of a building. I got stabbed once, and I'm sitting in this hospital bed. And he's like, I guess I got lucky. And he asks Lincoln what he meant about there being warnings and, something big is coming. And Lincoln says how he's gotten whispers for him to drop his bid for mayorship, and he woke up 2 weeks ago to an owl in his apartment. So he figures, hey, Court of Owls, probably real. And then after the Talon attack, seems to be confirmed. Bruce is like, they're not real, okay? They're not real. I've been in Gotham long enough, I would know about them. And Lincoln's like, maybe they just didn't want you to know. They are that powerful if they're real. So, but hey, regardless, I'm not dropping out his mayorship, so hope I have your vote. And Bruce says, yeah, of course you do. And he goes on this little story about how when he was in the boys' home, there was a creaking in the floor that nobody could figure out, and it was only someone who realized that there was a depression in the ground outside the building, and the whole thing was built on a sinkhole. So he basically saying, don't get so caught up in the tiny little thing that you miss the giant thing about to happen. So Batman goes out that night, and he something about how his grandfather was one of the first architects to skip over a 13th floor out of superstition. But in order for you to skip over a 13th floor, you are technically supposed to leave a little bit of a gap between floors to signify where the 13th one should have been. So Bruce goes and checks out those gaps in the building that his great-great-grandfather made. And as soon as he arrives, he finds the Talon's nest. He finds all this gear and a steampunk outfit. of the Talon along with a bunch of weapons and a picture of seemingly the Court of Owls dated for 1891. So he gets a list of all the buildings that his grandfather and a trust that his great-grandfather established were built upon. And in each of the 13 floors, there is a Talon's nest, all being dated pretty much decade after decade to the most recent one, which was 5 years ago, dated for 2006. And he's like, all right, I have something at least. The Court of Owls may actually exist. But as he's investigating this last place, he activates a tripwire, and the entire floor explodes with a Talon looking on from across the building. I like this issue. I like it a lot just because it does boil... It gets into what the Court of Owls, actually is. And, it explores a bit of not only their mythology a bit more than just what the nursery rhyme did, but it shows no, they have been here. This isn't something that's just popping up. They established that they've been around for over 100 years. And it's a good way to really set in stone, no, this is something that Batman has not yet been able to come up against. Something that has existed long from before he started his thing. Art, of course, is fantastic. They do this little thing where every time he goes to one of the new buildings, it's in the shape of one of the Talon's eyes. It's very well done. Additionally, just seeing him investigate each of the different nests is very good. I'm not so fond on the whole Whisper Gang at the beginning, just because it feels so completely out of place, and it didn't even result in anything. But, you got to have a fight every issue, so there you go. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's good. The only flaws I would point out is, like I said, that opening bit, and also when he's talking to Alfred about what he knows about owls and such, it gets just a little bit too wordy. It's just a lot of explaining without a lot of doing. But no, it's still a 7, still very solid, and of course the Court of Owls will be continuing on for quite some time.